FX Nation, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And as we continue our series of trading with a purpose, welcome to the next episode. In the last episode, we broke down pound USD and we broke down basically the cycles, the directional bias for that specific pair. So now let's go ahead and move on to the next pair. As you know, we're following 4 specific pairs for the entire year. So pound USD, pound JPY, gold, NAS 100. Now let's go ahead in this video, let's break down gold. Okay, and let's break down essentially the cycles for this one so we know where we are and we could just basically continue to follow it for the rest of the year. Now, obviously the important part about breaking these charts down is so you can understand how to find the directional bias, so that way you can have an advantage every day that you come in to the markets to trade. So quick recap of the previous video is, what do we need for a peak formation, right? For peak formation, we need what? We need a 1350 crossover of the EMAs. We need the ADR to go between 2.5 times to 4.5 times ADR. Okay, we need a one-time ADR move from the new peak formation, right? And then we need a breakup structure. That's it. All right, so those are the things that we need for essentially a peak formation to be good. Okay, now before we get started on gold, there are going to be some pairs. Okay, and let me just give you these right now. It's going to be JPY pairs. So JPY pairs, you're going to notice this on gold. You're going to notice it on silver if you trade silver. You're going to notice it on NAS 100 and US 30. Okay, now I know that we're not trading silver or US 30, but these are just pairs that this will happen on. Okay, these specific ones, okay, will produce what we like to call a super cycle. And you're asking yourself, what the hell is a super cycle? Well, pretty simple. A super cycle is essentially a pair that moves beyond the 4.5 ADR. Okay, 4.5 times ADR before it creates a new peak formation. Okay, now how did this happen and why did this happen? Well, back, I believe it was 2022, JPY pairs started to make astronomical moves that were beyond the limits that we had initially found for most pairs. Now this phenomena only happens on these specific pairs that I found so far. I don't trade all the pairs, so I don't do back testing on all of the pairs to give you all that stuff. If you want to figure that out, you could do your own back testing and see if that happens on the other pairs. But I know for sure it happens on these pairs specifically. JPY, all JPY pairs, gold, silver, NAS, US 30 are able to do super cycles. Again, all that this means is that basically the cycle ranges can go beyond 4.5 times ADR. All right, so if you go back to, let's say, if you go back to USD JPY and you go back to, I want to say 2022 is when I really started to notice it. So right here, if we measure this out, yeah, it's like 1,000 pips before we get a peak formation. So we started to go pretty deep, 6-7 times ADR, okay, on this specific area. That's when I started to notice that kind of behavior. And so we could kind of see how it basically, we found it on other pairs, other JPY pairs, and then also gold, silver, NAS, and US 30. So that's where that comes from. Okay, but just know that on gold it can go over 4.5. That's perfectly fine. It doesn't change anything. We just keep looking for buys or sells, whatever the case may be. In this case on gold, you're probably going to be doing more buys than selling for obvious reasons. So let's get right into breaking down where we are on the cycles here. So let's just start out simple from the very bottom here. We know that this is going to be a peak formation low. All right, that's where we're going to start off from. So let's go ahead and start from there as a peak formation low, and then let's go back and try to get what the ADRs are so we can verify all of the moves going forward and into current time. All right, so clearly we're going to have a crossover happen here and in a move and all that good stuff. This is going to be another peak formation. We just want to verify that that's correct, so we're right on track. So if we take a look here, you can see ADRs are in the 390s to 400s or so. Now, one thing that you will notice is when you measure this, okay, you're going to notice that the number here is pretty big. All right, here's what I want you to do. This is not 18,524. Okay, the real number that we're looking for is 1,852. Essentially, you remove the last number. So this 4, just imagine it doesn't exist, or in your head, move the comma over to ahead of the 4. Okay, so just make that adjustment mentally so you know. So we're doing basically 1,852. All right, we're going to divide that by the average ADR. Let's just say somewhere around 400. Okay, and you can already see we're at 4.5, 4.6 times ADR. All right, so we know that this for sure is a peak formation high. And then from there, we'll just play this out. And again, remember that all of the actual cycles are different because all the ADRs are essentially going to be different. Okay, so as we play this out here, you can see we started to move basically sideways. Now, how far is it from this peak formation to this area here? Well, we're talking 1,152. Now, if we take 1,152, we take a look at the ADR here from this move. It goes from 404 to 439, 440 or so. So let's just say around 415, 420. It's going to give you about the same amount anyways. So that gives us right around 2.7 times ADR. So technically this right here is enough for a full cycle. Okay, so this becomes peak formation low here. All right, so we got peak formation low, peak formation high, and then another peak formation. Now let's go ahead and keep playing this out so we can see where we go. And you can see what happened here is, and we went basically sideways, and then we basically retested the low again. Remember what I talked about yesterday about failed resets, right? Failed resets basically are when market makers go back down to the previous peak formation low to basically grab orders before the move happens. Okay, so they spend all this time here. Okay, market makers spend all this time going sideways, hoping to generate the orders that they needed essentially to make the move higher. But after doing all of that, they weren't able to do so, so they needed to grab orders that were down below this area. So they go down, grab the orders, and then they move out. So what does that mean? Essentially, this right here is going to end up being a failed reset. Okay, so this ends up being a failed reset, and then this right here ends up being another peak formation low. All right, and again, we just keep going with it. All right, here we have another major crossover. So let's see how many pips we've moved. So on this one is 1122, so 1,122. If we take a look at the ADR on this cycle here, we're in the 380s or so. So we divide that by the 380. That gives us 2.9 times ADR. So that is enough for another full cycle and another peak formation high. All right, so now we just, again, keep going and we're just waiting. This whole time, you're looking for sells, 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 sells. You're looking for sells, you're looking for sells. As soon as you start to see this behavior come back up again, okay, there's going to be another peak formation. All right, so if we take this right here, measure it down, and we're doing this obviously because we saw a crossover happen at the 1350 crossover. So now we're at 1421, so 1,421. You see the ADR ranges from, it's in the 380s to 394, so let's just say 390. That gives us 3.6 times ADR. That's another peak formation low. Okay. Now here's a couple things before we move on. Just a couple things I want you guys to notice. Okay. Just because you're going to notice this all the time, and you should notice this a lot more. Notice this aggressive move on the last part of the cycle. Okay. What is this grabbing? Why is this so aggressive and then immediately retraces? Okay, I want you to think about what is happening. Why is this attacking this area and then going back up again to make the peak formation low, essentially, right? Now take a look at what is, if we go over here, right, under here we have orders, under here we have orders, right? So all this entire area essentially is full of orders. Okay, remember, even going back to here, okay, this is a pullback, right? Every pullback has orders, just like this pullback will have orders, this will have orders, so they all have orders here. So just look what's happening, right? Start to put two and two together, essentially, okay, of why the peak formation low is happening here. Keep that in mind. All right, so anyways, so let's go on and again play this out. We're looking for buys. So throughout this whole time, you're just looking for buys, looking for buys, looking for buys, looking for buys. I'm going to stop it here so we could check to make sure that we don't have another cycle. I say that because we had another crossover on the 1 hour time frame. We were pretty far up. We've made a pretty significant move up, you know, from previous peak formation low. So if we just measure this out here, we're basically going to be at 817. Obviously 817 is not going to be enough for a full cycle for in the 350s on average. So we know that that's not a full cycle. So we're just, again, keep looking for buys, keep looking for buys. You just keep looking for buys. Okay. Here, if we had another crossover here. So let's go ahead and again measure this out. Now we're at 1146, so 1146. If we start to take a look at the ADR, you can see a really big move here from, let's say, the 400s to the 450s, and we kind of stay in that 350 range. Okay, so we go ahead and we divide that by 350. That gives us 3.2 times ADR. Okay, so that is going to be another peak formation high. And again, we keep playing it out now. Now I want you to see what happens, right, is once we get the peak formation, we get what? What is this going to end up being? This is going to end up being a reset. Okay, why is it a reset? It was basically we broke previous peak formation high here, and we're looking for prices to go higher. This is going to happen a lot on gold. Gold is going to have a lot of resets because if you look at the daily, monthly, weekly chart, gold is pretty much always in an uptrend. So the likelihood of having resets on gold are extremely high. So another thing to check off the box and know about gold that we talked about going back to like the first week or the orientation is the fact that gold is continuously on an uptrend on the daily, weekly, and monthly charts. So we know that it's very likely to reset on the smaller time frame. Okay, so we're going to stop here again and we're going to measure out because we just had another crossover. So here is so 1293, so 1293. Okay, so what is the average ADR? Around 300, because we started at 314 and we ended up 277, so somewhere around 290 or so, give or take. We're at 4.4 times ADR, so we know that that is a peak formation. All right, now tendency on gold, obviously, like we just talked about, is always in an uptrend, so probably very likely to get a reset on this. So there's your reset on gold. And again, we're just going to keep going. This whole time you're looking for buys. This whole time you're looking for buys. You're looking for buys. We haven't stopped yet. We hadn't had a crossover. Notice something very important. I need you guys to notice something. All right. Notice how these two times we did not cross over. Okay. Now, I need to emphasize this a lot because you will see this when you're going to think, I'm telling you, you're going to think that this is going to end up being a peak formation. And this is going to happen on any chart. Doesn't necessarily have to do with gold. But you will notice this where you're like pretty sure it's going to end up being a peak formation. And you already have it's set as a peak formation high and you're looking for sells, but it never actually crossed over. I'm telling you, this is going to happen to so many people because it happened to me because I was doing the same mistake. So please learn from my mistakes. Do not do this. Okay, let this thing confirm. Okay, you're not in a rush to enter a trade. All right, a lot of you guys are trying to rush because you want to get into the market. Forget about that. Just worry about the confirmations first. Okay, but I'm just pointing it out because I know it's something that I did a lot and I had a lot of losses because of it. That's what I'm telling you. Just let it do what it's going to do first. Do not try to outthink the market. It's stupid. Don't do it. Okay, just let it go. Let it go. So here is our first major crossover. All right, very likely, obviously we probably know that this is going to end up being a peak formation because of the move. The question is just how aggressive was this particular cycle, right? So if you go out here, you're at 2120, so 2120, and we're averaging, if we're in the 290s going into 320s, so let's just say 315 or so, give or take. 6.7 times ADR. So this is a good example of a super cycle. Okay, go from there. And then again, very likely because it's gold that it's going to reset. So here's what I want you to notice about this, right? It crossed over, went back up again, and what did it do? We had another crossover again. Okay, now because we had another crossover again, all right, I already know what this is. This is essentially going to end up being another peak formation high, and this is going to end up being a failed reset. And the reason I know that is because we know that from here to here is not enough for a full cycle. Okay, and again, it went up, grabbed orders that were sitting here, went down, And then now it's going to actually probably give us a reset. Let's see what happens here. So it ends up giving us a reset. Again, gold likes to move up the majority of the time. It's a really good investment piece. You want to be a really good gold trader? Here's how you can be a really good gold trader. Just buy gold and never sell it. And you'll probably do a lot better than people who actually trade gold. If you actually just invest in gold, just buy it and don't sell it. It's probably the best investment you can make. Anyways, we're going to keep going here. All right, so here is another move back down again, so we have to account for it. All right, so for measuring this out, we're at 797. And obviously, if we're averaging in the 390s, we know that there is no way that this is anywhere close to a peak formation. So now, here's what I want you guys to see. Okay, and this is a really, really good example. All right, what happened here? We had the crossover. We had this as a reset because it broke this high or these highs, right? But look what happened to price. I want you to pay attention. Price came up here, and all it did was retest it multiple times, and then it dropped. Okay, so what do we do in this situation? What do you think you should do in this situation if this happens? Because this is going to happen again. If you had it as a reset, okay, because price broke above, and then it eventually just consolidated and basically broke down again. Because you have to account for this. You can't just let it go. All you do is you just change this, okay, from a reset to a failed reset, and this becomes another peak formation high. Okay, and then you keep going. Now, I want you guys to understand that as you saw in real time, as the chart is playing out, right, that's exactly how it's going to look. Okay, you're going to think that it's a reset. I thought it was a reset, and it's fine, right? You're looking for buys anyways until you're proven wrong. When you get to this stage here, okay, of the first crossover, all right, you have to start thinking to yourself, okay, is this going to be another peak formation? Is this enough? Obviously, we know it's not because it's not enough pips, right? So the fact that it went back up again, here's what you have to understand: the behaviors. It's all in the behaviors, all right? If you see that price came up here, grabbed all these orders, and immediately came back down again, retested again, it's basically acting as a form of resistance, and it crossed over again, you should start to question, okay, is this really a reset, and are we basically consolidating, or basically coming back down again? I guarantee you this is going to happen to you, because it happens to me. It literally just happened to me there that you saw, and it's okay is what I need you guys to understand, that it's okay. It's going to happen, right? Because you're literally basing it off of real price action as it's moving. You don't have the luxury of looking at the entire chart and then just saying, yeah, here's peak formation lows, blah, blah, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's happening in real time, and as the chart is playing out, you're making the best decision, okay, based on what's available to you in the price. So just know that. All right, we had another crossover here. So now let's measure this again. This is probably going to end up being a peak formation low. So we're at 1220, so 1,220. Okay, we're averaging about 410, give or take. All right, that's about 2.9 times ADR. So that's going to be another peak formation low, and then we keep going. All right, again, had another crossover. We'll just check it real quick just to make sure that it's not enough, which is probably not going to be. It's 976. and it's averaging in the 430s. We know for sure that's not going to be enough for a full cycle, so there's nothing there. You just keep going. This whole time we're looking for buys, 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 buys. All the biases buys. Only looking for buys this whole time. And there, we just made it to current price action. Okay, so we're currently in a super cycle right now. All right, so we're currently 2111, so 2,111 pips move, and that cycle is averaging somewhere around 400 or so. So we're at 5.2 times ADR right now. So we're currently in a super cycle, still looking for buys. Okay, at all-time highs. So we know that we're going to get a peak formation high here pretty soon, very likely, right? Because we're at all-time highs on gold, and then also we're super extended on the regular cycle. Okay, so based on where price action is, in order to get a peak formation high, I think we need to be trading below 3010. If we're trading below 3010, I think that should be enough to get the crossover and give us one-time ADR or whatnots. For sure, if we're trading below 2980s, that's going to be enough. Okay, so right now we've just did, how long did we do here? We did all this. We did from November of 2024 to current price on gold. Now you know where you are on gold. You know where you are on pound USD. All right, guys. So hopefully you got a lot from this video. Hopefully you learned a lot from this particular videos. We're going to do NAS 100 and we'll do pound JPY in the next few videos. So again, we'll be caught up on where we are in the cycle and directional bias. So then moving forward, as we start talking about these pairs, we essentially know where we are, and we're going to be now going into, okay, what are the actual trade setups? What do the entries look like, and things of that nature. All right, but we got plenty of time. We got a whole year of this, so no need to stress out or rush. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you need more help, or if you don't want to do peak formations and things of that nature, I think one of the best ways to learn peak formations is honestly just to look at my charts every day. That's what FXN Plus gives you. So if you want to learn this a lot faster, literally look at my charts every single day, how I do it. Join FXN Plus. Links are in the description, and we will see you in the next video.